Big Mom and her big family bring lots of big pain in this week's super exciting chapter of One Piece, live from beautiful New York City. That's right, my friends. This week's chapter of One Piece was action freaking packed. And honestly, for all of those readers who thought that Luffy and his friends were going to defeat Big Mom and save Sanji and get out of this place without nary a scratch, well, be prepared to be shocked, because in this week's chapter, Big Mom and her family basically just curb stomp the ever-living shit out of Luffy and his comrades, basically putting them in a corner, spraying them down with a hose of oppression, and kicking them square in the balls. This was a very surprising chapter. Honestly, I do love the way it's going. It's sort of going against the grain of the typical One Piece story, with Luffy and his friends going to an island, helping out some people with a problem, defeating the big bad guy, and moving on to the next obstacle. Here, that obstacle is constantly getting in their way, and just crushing all of their hopes and dreams. Hell, there was a huge scene in this chapter where Luffy actually went gear forth and charged directly at Big Mom, who seemed to be enjoying the concept of having someone who could potentially even fight back against her. But no, she just takes it all in stride, covers her giant arms in hockey, and takes all of those hits as if they don't even hurt her, going as far as to not only defeating Luffy, but all of his comrades, Germa 66, Capone, Caesar Clown, the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. Not only that, but there was also a very big reveal in this week's chapter. We get to learn that Stussy, the underworld queen herself, is secretly an agent of Cypher Pole Aegis Zero, otherwise known as CP0. This is revealed when we have the scene where Dufeld is trying to take the Tamate Bako, and she ends up hitting him with that Shigen-style technique, which was a move that was made famous by a lot of the CP9 characters during the CP9 arc. What's cool about her is that she can actually fire this from a distance, essentially shooting air bullets, and not only does she end up killing Dufeld, but he ends up falling over the side of this cliff along with the Tamate Bako, which ends up exploding as soon as it hits the ground because there's a huge old chunk of dynamite in there, and this might actually be the thing that could save Luffy and his friends, because most of this chapter is just watching Big Mom completely crush and destroy everything in her wake. And then at the very end, it seems like everybody's about to be executed, everyone's defeated, held down by Big Mom's family, and this big explosion is actually going to cause this massive cake chateau to fall over on its side, which could be the MacGuffin that saves Luffy and his friends. Now, before we even get to that, let me talk about a couple of my favorite scenes from this chapter. One, the battle between Judge Vinsmoke and Big Mom. It's very short-lived, but man, this is just another one of those scenes that drives home the fact that Big Mom is someone that you do not want to fuck with, especially because not only does his spear get completely crushed by Big Mom, but I love when she actually ends up summoning Prometheus, the giant cloud, sticking her hand up into his mouth, holding down Judge Vinsmoke, and then punching him with this massive lightning blast. It just looks so devastatingly powerful, and you get to see that his gloriously golden mask ends up getting cracked and destroyed, and everybody is just in a state of shock. This scene right here was just another demonstration of how overwhelmingly powerful Big Mom is and how determined she is to become Pirate King. In fact, the scene with her and Luffy actually punching each other when he goes gear forth and they both say that they're going to be the ones who are going to be the Pirate King just sent this massive shiver down my spine. It was such a classic moment from the series. And this one was not without its comedy either. A lot of the comedy from this week's chapter came from Caesar Clown, who is continuing to try and escape with everyone, even actually getting past Parasparrow's giant candy wall, of course with the help of Germa 66. But what's really great about this is all these scenes where he's trying to run away and help out his friends and just get the hell out of Dodge, everybody's like, yeah, Caesar, you're awesome! We love you, man! But you're still kind of a giant dick. That's really funny. They always still manage to cut him down at the lowest level, and it always manages to make me laugh. Now, the character of Stussy. This is something that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about, and it's sort of just like makes you not want to trust any other character again, because you never know how many secret agents CP0 is actually going to have. And this explains a lot, as she was actually able to withstand Big Mom's giant cry the last couple of chapters, and that's of course because she's a highly trained world government operative, working directly under CP0, basically being one of their spies. And she even seems to be working alongside the character of Morgan's, everybody's favorite Big Bird. And basically, when he sees that all of this is going down, she makes a deal with him that they are going to sort of spin the story and blame it all on Feld, as long as Morgan's can get a chance to see actually what's inside of the box. The problem is, before any of this can happen, it ends up falling over the side of the cliff. Big ass boom. End of this week's chapter. So, what's the rundown on this week's chapter of One Piece? Just devastation. I am really shocked that Luffy and his friends are in such dire straits here, especially because a lot of the destruction and pain actually happens off-panel. We don't even really get to see what happens to Luffy and all of his friends. It just cuts away to the end, and they're all seemingly defeated, beaten, and battered. And this is a scene that hopefully they will build upon in the anime version, just to show how incredibly devastating Big Mom is in her power. But man, I mean, I was almost kind of convinced. I was almost at that point where I'm like, Big Mom's gonna be defeated. This is going to be a big shocking twist to this arc. They're actually not only going to be able to defeat her, they're gonna get the Poneglyph plans, they're gonna save Sanji, and everything's gonna work out. But everything is going completely wrong. Of course, this plan wasn't just going to go off without a hitch. There were going to be some speed bumps along the way, but them all being defeated just so damn easily truly speaks to how devastatingly powerful Big Mom is, and it also makes me realize, man, Kaido is going to be an absolute nightmare for Luffy and his friends to actually take down. In fact, there's a great scene again when Big Mom is yelling at Luffy and saying, "Hey, on Fishman Island, weren't you saying you were gonna kick my ass?" And, of course, this pisses off Luffy to the point where he transforms into his Gear 4th form and has to fight against her, but he even mentions that he's gonna take down Kaido, and she refers to Kaido as a thing, as this weird, freaky entity that almost seems insurmountable in terms of his actual power. And for someone as strong as Big Mom to actually acknowledge that, that's something to really pay attention to. They don't call Kaido the most strongest beast of them all for nothing, and considering how strong Big Mom is, I cannot imagine how crazy Kaido is going to be, to the point where it almost seems like Luffy might not be able to do this thing by himself. It looks like he's actually going to have some help. It's a good thing he has a couple thousand pirates at his beckoning call, but of course there is the fact that a lot of the other supernovas probably want to take Kaido down as well, so I see that there's probably going to end up being this massive war where all the supernovas might have to end up teaming up against all of the emperors themselves. And we have to remember, we're still just looking at a couple of the emperors at this point. These are essentially what I like to call the entry-level emperors. They're the ones that are introduced first in the story before we move on to the real big head honchos like Blackbeard and of course red-haired Shanks. But then again, Shanks' relationship with Luffy is a little more on the buddy-buddy side of things, and I can't wait to see where they're going to take that part of the story, but for now, let's just relish in this amazingly action-packed story right here with Big Mom, who's proven that she is arguably the strongest character that we have seen in action from the series thus far. I mean, Kaido is implied to be stronger, but right now, Big Mom is just a giant force that you don't want to fuck with, and creepily enough, her family are just as disturbing. The scene where Caesar Clown is about to run away and he ends up running right into the crotch of Katakuri Dogtooth was really creepy, especially the way that he's like, "You were just one step away from escaping, boy," and boom! He smacked his gassy ass down, and they all end up getting just completely destroyed and choked out by Big Mom's family. Even Brule came in and got a little bit of poetic justice revenge against Caesar Clown by transforming into him, with him constantly running into that weird freaky clone of himself. It was just such a downer of a chapter, seeing all of our characters just get completely devastated by all of this. And as I said, I'm guessing that the big explosion from the Tamate Bako is probably what's going to end up saving them. Although someone else could show up, you never know. This is one of those series where honestly things can be kind of unpredictable, but considering how beaten down the characters are, I wouldn't be surprised if they have to make a strategic retreat, or if someone else is just going to end up coming in on a white horse. Maybe Cavendish. It's really hard to say. What I will say is, this was a fantastic chapter of One Piece, which had some amazing action panels, some of which, like I said, stand out was Big Mom attacking Judge Vinsmoke with the giant lightning blast, her fighting Luffy in his Gear 4th form, and all of the stuff with Stussy being revealed as a member of CP0. That was surprising. I can't wait to see if there's any other CP0 people who are going to be hidden amongst these ranks. It's just great stuff right here. How are Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates going to get out of this one? I want to hear from you guys. If any of you did read this week's chapter, please make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as to how Luffy and his friends are going to escape, if they actually are going to be captured by Big Mom and actually have to be saved by Zoro and their group. What do you want to see from the conclusion of the Whole Cake Island arc? And of course, my score for this week's chapter is a solid 5 out of 5. This one just kicked ass! So make sure to check it out, One Piece fans. Thank you so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it, guys. One of the best ways to help support our channel, of course, is to leave me a comment telling me what you thought about this week's video. Make sure to like the video. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is click a button, and it helps out our videos a ton. And, of course, make sure to subscribe for all things One Piece anime and manga related. Yes, I also review the anime version of the series, and I highly recommend you guys check those reviews out. I work very, very hard on them, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys would check them out. But that concludes this review. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and as always, stay damn, baby.